Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good day to my supervisor, Dr. AZLINA Abdul Aziz. My name is Ahmad Hamizan bin LOOTFI AMIR, and today I'm going to present on my project paper 2. The title of my research is Teacher's Perspective on Using Sign Language Instruction, Challenges and Strategies in Malaysian Primary School. So these are my table of contents. We are going to cover just now the title, research aims and questions, the conceptual framework, methodology, findings, discussion, implication, and last but not least, the conclusion. All right, so deaf and hard of hearing students, commonly known as DHAs, rely heavily on visual modes of communication, which makes learning English, particularly reading and writing, more challenging when instruction is not visually accessible, as highlighted by Toblanc and Van Steden, 2021. Limited access to auditory input affects how DHA students process language and develop literacy skills. Previous studies have shown that a bilingual bimodal approach, which integrates sign language with English, can significantly improve comprehension and literacy development among DHH learners. However, in the Malaysian context, English instructions for DHH students is further complicated by the use of multiple sign systems. This include Bahasa Isyarat Malaysia (BIM), Kod Tangan Bahasa Bahasa Malaysia, KTBM, Sign Exact English (SEE), and American Sign Language (ASL). So these sign systems differ in structure and grammar, which can make it difficult for teachers to clearly explain English sentence structure and grammatical rules. Uh, Rasgo 2021 note that inconsistency between sign language, grammar, and English syntax often create what we call a confusion during instruction. So, in addition, many teachers also face limited training, lack of suitable teaching materials specifically designed for these classrooms. Studies by Selvum and Enel 2022 and Noshare 2025 highlight that teachers often feel underprepared to adapt English lessons effectively for deaf learners. Right. While language learning strategies has been shown to support language acquisition, there is still limited evidence on which strategy teachers in Malaysia prefer and apply when teaching English to DHH students. Uh, Therefore, this study seeks to address these issues by examining Malaysian primary school teachers' experiences, challenges, and the preferred language learning strategies when implementing science-supported English instructions for DHH students. This slide outlines the key research gaps that shape the focus of my research. First, although inclusive education has gained attention in the recent years, there are few studies that explore Malaysian teachers' actual classroom experience in implementing science-supported English instruction. Existing research tends to emphasize on policy or learner outcomes rather than everyday teaching practices. Second, there is a limited empirical evidence on how the use of multiple science system influences English teaching and learning in Malaysian primary schools, creating this uncertainty for teachers working within a mixed signing environment. While language learning strategies are well established in second language research, little is known about the specific strategies teachers use when teaching English to deaf and hard of hearing learners or students in science-supported classroom. Moreover, teachers' perspective, particularly in primary school level, where the foundational language development is crucial, remain underrepresented. A few local studies also link teachers' instructional challenges with the strategies they adopt in DHS English classroom, as stated by Chong and Hussein, 2021, and Asari and Rashid, 2024. So based on these gaps, This study addresses two research questions. Number one is, what challenges do Malaysian primary school teachers face in integrating sign language into English instruction? And the second research question is, what language learning strategies do teachers prefer when implementing science-supported English instruction? So by addressing these questions, the study aims to offer context-specific insights to inform teacher training, instructional practice, and policy development in deaf education in Malaysia. Research consistently shows that bilingual bimodal instructions, which integrating sign language with spoken or written English, supports cognitive development and literacy growth among deaf and hard of hearing learners. Cumin's dual iceberg theory explains how skills developed through sign language can transfer to English via shared underlying cognitive process, which a claim further supported by recent studies on cross-linguistic transfer in deaf learners by Simpson and Mayer, 2023. In addition, visual and multimodal instructional strategies such as finger spelling, images, and video-based materials has been shown to enhance vocabulary development and reading comprehension in DHS students, as stated by Kenneth uh, and Rahmat, 2024. However, implementation remains challenging in Malaysia. The use of multiple science system coupled with limited professional training creates pedagogical and communication difficulties for teachers. To address these challenges, language learning strategies, particularly cognitive, metacognitive, social, and compensation strategies, play a crucial role in supporting effective instruction, aligning with Oxford's 1990 framework and more recent work by Fenninger in 2023. Finally, uh, although emerging technologies such as digital signing tools and virtual reality show promises for language learning, their use in Malaysian schools remain limited due to resource and training constraint. These are what we call a quick review on my literature review for this thesis or this research. This conceptual framework explains English learning among deaf and hard of hearing students as an interaction between sign language system and spoken or written English. These we call modalities mutually support each other, consistent with Cumin's interdependence hypothesis and bimodal bilingualism theory, which propose that language skills developed through sign language can transfer to English, particularly in vocabulary, conceptual understanding, and narrative structure. In practice, teachers face multiple challenges, uh, such as limited professional training, insufficient teaching materials, and the need to navigate the multiple science system in Malaysia. These constraints influence teachers' confidence and effectiveness in integrating sign language with English instruction. Within this framework, the LLS, or language learning strategies, act as a mediator factor between teacher challenges and students' outcome. Drawing on Oxford's taxonomy, strategies such as cognitive, again, metacognitive, social, and memory strategies are especially important in visual science supported classroom. Effective use of LLs enables teachers to overcome contextual challenges, leading to improved student engagement, comprehension, and English literacy development. This study adopts a qualitative dominant mixed methods approach to examine Malaysian primary school teachers' perspective on using sign language in English instruction for the SHIS learner. Convergent parallel design was used with qualitative and quantitative data collected simultaneously and given equal priority. The qualitative components offers in-depth insights into teachers' experiences, challenges, and instructional practices, while quantitative components identifies in teachers' use of language learning strategies. The study is grounded in a pragmatic research design, emphasizing on real-world classroom practices and practical problem solving within a bilingual bimodal context. Overall, this design enables data triangulation, enhancing the validity and credibility of the findings, as stated by Creswell and Plano Clark in 2018. Participants were selected through purposive sampling from 3 primary schools in Kuala Lumpur, offering inclusive and specialized education for deaf and hard of hearing students. The qualitative phase involved 4 primary school teachers with at least 6 years of experience and proficiency in science systems such as BIM, KTBM, SEE, or ASL. The quantitative study included 46 primary school teachers with minimum of 5 years experience teaching DHH learners. Data were collected using semi-structured interviews and a teacher language learning strategies questionnaire adapted from Oxford in 1990 and later revised by Augustine 2021. The questionnaire showed excellent reliability, Chrombat alpha of 0.965. Qualitative data were analyzed using thematic analysis following Brown's and Clark's six-phase framework, while quantitative data were analyzed using descriptive statistics uh, via SPSS. Ethical approval, pilot testing, and methodological triangulation were applied to ensure research rigor and trustworthiness. The findings for qualitative shows that teachers face multiple overlapping challenges when implementing science-supported English instruction. One major issue is the use of multiple science systems, including BIM, KTBM, SE, and SL. Teachers describe their classroom as linguistically inconsistent spaces, often resulting in what they refer to as rojak signing, where different systems are mixed without a clear structure. This lack of standardization creates communication barriers, particularly for profoundly deaf students, as teacher struggles to determine whether students truly understand the lesson content. Teachers also observe signs of what we call a cognitive overload, as students are expected to manage Malay, English, and sign language simultaneously. Uh, this often led to mixed sentence structures and confusing, reflecting challenges in bilingual bimodal processing. Another difficulty involves teaching abstract English concepts, such as the word imagination or belief, which lack a clear visual or sign representations. Students frequently memorize signs without fully understand their meanings. These challenges were further intensified by limited teaching resources as teachers lack sign integrated textbooks, updated dictionaries, and a ready-made instructional materials. As a result, communicative activities such as group discussions had to be heavily guided or replaced with one-to-one instruction to ensure that lesson objectives were achieved. In addition to the classroom level challenges, the findings highlight several systemic factors that contribute to teachers' difficulties. A key concern raised by the teachers was the lack of specialized professional training for teaching English to DCH students. Although teachers attended a English courses, none focused specifically on bilingual bimodal instruction or science-supported pedagogy. Teachers also reported the absence of continuous professional development, mentoring, and structured knowledge sharing, which led to professional isolation and uncertainty about instructional effectiveness. Many of the teachers relied on self-learning and informal peer support, often taking years to develop effective teaching strategies through what we call a trial and error. At the institutional level, participants or the teachers highlighted limited involvement from educational authorities, with decisions made without sufficient understanding of the classroom realities that the teachers face. The lack of standardized policies on sign language use uh, further contributed to inconsistent practices across schools, particularly when teachers were posted to special education setting without prior preparation or orientation. Finally, teachers identify cultural and linguistic misconceptions about deaf education, where the learners are often perceived as less capable, One deaf teacher emphasized that sign language should be recognized as a legitimate first language rather than a compensatory tool. These findings suggest that teachers' challenges are deeply rooted not only in pedagogy but also in institutional structures and societal perceptions. For the quantitative findings, the findings show that cognitive strategies were used frequently with a very high mean scores of 4.5 to 4.63, indicating a strong agreement on their importance in teaching English to deaf and hard of hearing students. Teachers rely heavily on visual aids, gestures, real objects, and finger spelling to make English input more concrete and accessible. The highest rated strategy involved breaking down complex English sentences into smaller units using sign language, reflecting teachers' effort to simplify syntax and reduce cognitive overload. Memory strategies were also widely used. Teachers frequently employ repetition, mnemonics, and structured writing activities before signing to support vocabulary retention and organization of ideas, particularly in written English. Moving on to metacognitive and social strategies, the findings indicate moderately high to high levels of usage across these categories. For metacognitive strategies, teachers commonly guided students to monitor their own learning through reflection and provided step-by-step guidance using sign language. However, strategies such as goal setting and self-evaluation recorded slightly lower mean score, suggesting some variation in implementation. This may be due to students' language proficiency levels or the additional time required to develop independent learning skills among Asian learners. Social strategies were strongly represented in data. Teachers frequently facilitate peer learning, role play activities, guided discussions, and group based tasks using science supported instruction. These findings demonstrate that despite communication constraints, teachers continue to value interaction and cooperation as part of English learning. Social strategies allow students to practice expressive language, build confidence, and engage meaningfully with both peers and teachers in a visually accessible environment. The final category focuses on compensation strategies, which help students cope with gaps in understanding or language production. The finding shows high usage across all compensation strategies with mean score ranging from 4.35 to 4.63. This indicates that teachers frequently support students in finding alternative pathways to meaning, especially when direct translation or explanation is difficult. Uh, The highest mean score in this category involved teaching students to switch between different science systems such as KTBM or BIM to clarify meaning. This reflects teachers' practical responses to the reality of multiple science systems used in Malaysian school. Teachers also rely heavily on context clues, paraphrasing into sign language, bilingual apps, and multiple cues, visual cues such as lip reading, facial expressions, and gestures. In summary, the quantitative findings show that teachers employ a wide and adaptive range of language learning strategies, while cognitive and memory strategies were the most preferred. Metacognitive, social, and compensation strategies played an important supporting roles. These results suggest that despite systemic and linguistic challenges, teachers demonstrate high levels of strategic awareness, creativity, and flexibility in delivering science-supported English instructions. However, the effectiveness of these strategies could be further enhanced through standardized sign language practices, targeted professional development, and stronger institutional support. Now we are going through the discussion. Um, this slide discusses the issues of linguistic fragmentation identified in the study. Teachers constantly describe their classroom as linguistically fragmented due to multiple science systems. This lack of standardization resulted in inconsistent language input for the students, making it difficult for them to establish a stable linguistic foundation. Teachers were often required to switch between science systems to meet curricular demands while ensuring students' understanding. While this practice was well intentioned, it increased cognitive demands for both teachers and learners and reduce opportunities for sustained exposure to a single coherent science system. From a theoretical perspective, these findings strongly support Kuhlmann's interdependence hypothesis, which stated that without a stable first language, the cognitive foundation needed for English literacy transfer becomes weakened. The findings also align with research on bimodal bilingualism, which emphasizes that effective cross-modal transfer depends on the consistency and linguistic stability. In the absence of this stability, Rishi students struggle to internalize grammatical patterns and vocabulary structures necessary for English reading and writing. Now, for communication barriers and cognitive overload. Teachers reported ongoing difficulty in accurately gauging students' understanding, particularly among learners who rely entirely on visual input. This uncertainty often affected instructional pacing and limited opportunities for timely feedback. Cognitive overload emerged as a major issue as the students were required to process multiple languages and modalities at the same time, including written English, Malay, DIM, KTBM, and SEE. For primary level DHS learners, this placed excessive demands on working memory and attention. As a result, students often focus on decoding linguistic forms rather than constructing meaning, leading to a surface level comprehension. Teachers also observe the frequent use of mixed or rojak signing, which lack grammatical consistency and further complicated instruction and assessment. From a theoretical standpoint, these findings highlight the limitations of cross-linguistic transfer when surface level linguistic demands overwhelm the shared cognitive proficiency proposed in Kuhlmann's dual iceberg model. Overall, the findings suggest that communication breakdowns and cognitive overload significantly constrain English language development in bilingual bimodal classroom contexts. Discussion overall patterns of language learning strategies. This is to answer research question 2. The result shows consistently high mean scores across all language learning strategies categories, indicating teachers frequent use of wide range of strategies when teaching the two DHS learners. Uh, this pattern reflects teachers' awareness of the complex linguistic and sensory needs of DHS students, particularly in bilingual bimodal classroom. The frequent use of multiple strategies suggests that teachers are actively compensating for reduced auditory access by integrating visual, cognitive, and social supports into their instructions. Importantly, these quantitative findings strongly corroborate the qualitative data where teachers describe adapting their teaching practices to ensure comprehension and engagement. Dominance of cognitive and memory strategies. Cognitive strategies recorded the highest mean score, indicating that teachers frequently use visual aids, bilingual resources, sentence breaking techniques, storytelling, and explicit explanations of English language forms. This heavy reliance reflects teachers' recognition of digital learners depend strongly on visual, spatial input, and structured instruction for comprehension. Memory strategies also showed high mean score, with teachers frequently using repetition, visual associations, and mnemonic techniques to support vocabulary retention. These strategies are particularly important for digital learners who have limited access to incidental language exposure and phonological input. From a theoretical perspective, the prominence of cognitive and memory strategies aligns with visual learning theory and bilingual bimodal education models, which emphasize the coordinated use of visual, gestural, and written language modalities. In relation to humans' interdependence hypothesis, these strategies help strengthen the shared underlying proficiency by supporting a stable form, meaning connections between sign language and written English, thereby facilitating cross-linguistic transfer. This slide outlines the key implications of the study. The findings suggest that effective English instruction for Desiz learners requires a greater instructional coherence within bilingual bimodal classrooms. In particular, consistent use of sign language is essential for supporting language stability and reducing cognitive overload among learners. The study also highlights the importance of visual and sign integrated approaches in English teaching. Teachers' extensive use of cognitive, memory, social, and compensation strategies reflects their efforts to adapt instructions to students' visual learning needs. At the same time, the reliance on individual teacher initiative points to gaps in a professional training and curriculum alignment. Without a structured pedagogical support and clear instructional guidelines, teaching practices remain uneven across contexts. So overall, the findings emphasize the need for a coordinated efforts at the classroom, institutional, and policy levels to better support bilingual bimodal English instruction for DHH learners. Now we're at the last part, which is the conclusion. From the research, we can confirm that teaching English to deaf and hard of hearing learners is a complex and multi-dimensional process that is shaped by linguistic diversity, cognitive demands, pedagogical constraints, and institutional limitations. Teachers face ongoing challenges related to inconsistency of sign language use, cognitive overload, limited resources, and insufficient professional preparation. However, the study also demonstrates teachers' strong commitment and adaptability in responding to these challenges. The extensive use of language learning strategies reflects teachers' efforts to ensure comprehension, support English literacy, and mediate meaning across visual and linguistic modalities. Overall, the findings affirm the relevance of bilingual bimodal education and supports Cumin's interdependence hypothesis, highlighting the importance of stable and accessible language input in facilitating English language development among British learners. Thank you. That is all from me on my presentation on teachers' perspective on using sign language instruction, challenges and strategies in Malaysian primary school. So this research would not be possible without the help of my supervisor, Dr. AZLINA Abdul Aziz. And I think that's all from me. Thank you. Assalamualaikum.